My name is Darryl Kwao. Thanks for being with us tonight. We begin from the agric sector, where an 11-member trade mission from the Netherlands horticultural sector is visiting Ghana to explore business and investment opportunities in the agric sector. The mission, which coincides with the third Ghana Veg Fruit and Vegetable Fair, is expected to see 50 companies tap into the potential of the agric sector. The Netherlands ambassador to Ghana, Ron Strick, announced a €12.5 million package for the Ghanaian agric sector. Here's more in this report.
50 local and international stakeholders in the agric sector converged in Accra to display a variety of locally produced fruits and vegetables at the Ghana Veg exhibition. The Netherlands ambassador to Ghana, Ron Stricker, says the Dutch government is considering making Ghana a leading exporter of fruits and vegetables by 2020. He says his government is committing €12.5 million towards the project.
We will expand it up to 2020. I think it's more than 10,000 public funds. 10 million euros public funding goes into it. But of course it is matched also by investment by the private sector. And the idea is of the Ghana Veg program to promote and stimulate vegetable growing in Ghana. All kinds of vegetables, in particular the green ones, which are not the staple foods over here, which can be produced for the domestic markets and in the long term I think also for export. But there is a huge potential to do more and to do better. And the essence is that we facilitate farmers who see really farming and horticulture and vegetable growing as a profitable business to help them to better and improve their businesses.
The Deputy Minister for Trade, Ahunka Lindsay, said government is putting in place new measures to ensure food items exported from Ghana are not rejected on the European market. Speaking at the launch of the Ghana Veg event, Robert Ahunka Lindsay hinted that a ban on the export of fruits and vegetables in Ghana by the European Union will be lifted in September this year.
Focus and help you grow your business. We will look at addressing, I know, a challenge where we have current phytosanitary issues with the European Union, which we are very pleased the EU will work with on a track program, and we'll look. And I'm very hopeful that come September, when the new mission comes, Ghana, made in Ghana vegetables will be accepted in Europe as here in Ghana itself. But the opportunity is still huge, and I think you as business people reflect that opportunity.
Ghana Veg is an initiative supported by the Netherlands Embassy and driven by a strong belief in healthy and quality vegetables from Ghana through new ways of doing business. The initiative targets the high-end domestic and international market in Ghana under the supervision of the Ghana Netherlands Business and Culture Council, GNBCC.
The Ghana Chamber of Commerce has launched a maiden edition of the Chamber Business Awards 2016. The aim of the awards is to make Ghana's private sector competitive on the world market. President of the Chamber, Nana P.J. Danko, has been explaining the rationale behind the ceremony.
When you have an award winner, it opens the gate for the person to perform well, and they can easily seek international partners because they know that that person is trustworthy and has integrity and other things. Because our awards is being assessed by Ernst & Young independently, and we know it will give it the needed boost for other private sector members to also compete and win such awards.
Happens to be some of the advice that you love for government to consider as it rolls out these stimulus packages?
Actually, my brother, we are very happy because we have our input in that decision. And so if you see your inputs being adhered to and also heeded to as an advice given to government, you see it as a very laudable. Seriously, you see we have other companies that are viable but need some but distress in terms of resources. And so when the government came up with the one district, one factory, the whole thing is that we have two categories. The first category will be these stimulus packages, those who are already existing and are not viable, but the stress, having problems or challenges with financial and other logistic problems. So therefore, it is a very welcome idea, and that they have consulted us wholly, and we are part of the whole process. And it's not about Chima members alone. We are looking at the private sector in general, and that we can improve the performance of the private sector just to move to the next level of our socio-economic development.
More investments are still needed in the country's transmission and power generating plants to prevent recent power outages. That's the advice coming from energy expert Ben Boakye. This follows yesterday's nationwide power outage that lasted for almost 3 hours. This is the second time in just 2 months that the country has experienced this challenge. Ghana Grid Company attributed yesterday's challenge to slight problems with transmission lines between Ghana and Ivory Coast. Many had argued with the coming on board of gas from Trinidad and Ntume and Sankofa Jinyame fields, the country's challenge with power generation would be over. But Mr. Boakye tells Joy Business the state of equipment being used in the sector needs to be looked at again. And we'll bring you more on that story. But still in the energy sector, power distribution firm Gridco has attributed yesterday's power outages in parts of the country to a system failure. The challenge resulted in blackouts running into several hours. This is the second time, as we've been telling you this year, that the nation has experienced such a problem. So is it more of a challenge with equipment being used or a generation issue? Magba is Director of System Operations at Gridco.
It was around 7:30. There was a swing on the tie line, what we call the tie line. That is the line between, transmission line between Ghana and Cote d'Ivoire. That created some instability in the system, and as a result, we lost the generators in the western part of the country. Basically, our generation is in the west and then in the east. So we lost all the generators in the western part of the country. Now, what happens is that we've installed quite a number of relays in the system and the entire country. So these are meant to make sure that the system does not collapse in such eventuality. So we had to knock off a lot of our load. So eventually the Ghana power system was running on units, generating units in the eastern part of the country. So that resulted in the massive outages that we saw.
For you as a transmitter, you think there's no cause for alarm?
Oh, there is no cause for alarm.
You're not back to Dumso?
No. We have enough generation, in fact, more than enough to go around. So there's no cause for alarm.
You think that the state of our transmission lines are still in good shape?
Technicians and engineers are working hard to make sure that our lines are always up to task, and we just hope such incidents don't repeat themselves. And we're working hard for Ghana, and we assure customers that we will work as hard as possible to keep everybody online with the lights on.
And while still in this space, Ghana will incur about $700 million debt every year if government implements all its power purchase agreements. That's from the Minister of Energy, Boakye Jaku. He made the revelation at the opening of this year's Ghana Energy Summit under the theme, The Future of Energy in Ghana. The Vice President, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, in March hinted some $300 million had been saved in government's first 100 days after reviewing major power purchase agreements. Mr. Boakye Jaku has also indicated consumers may have to pay more for power if government approves all these agreements.
The debilitating power crisis that frustrated households and industry, bruised the economy, and institutionalized Dumso in our lexicon speaks volumes of the weaknesses inherent in our power subsector development and governance. Knee-jerk reactions to the crisis led to the overprocurement of expensive thermal power capacity with serious financial consequences. If all the power purchase agreements currently in place are implemented, the nation will incur annual extra capacity charges of nearly $700 million. Deals-driven generation capacity procurement has resulted in a very high average tariff for power, making our power the most expensive in the sub-region. Ladies and gentlemen, the fact that some industries and commercial entities are generating their own electricity using diesel is not only an amplification of the growing non-competitiveness of our tariff regime, but also points to the convoluted tariff structure. Our tariff structure does not provide adequate safeguards for the vulnerable, such as those living in compound houses, and unfairly penalizes industry. Lack of clarity of government policy in the past on subsidies, payments of electricity consumed by MMDAs and other public institutions has resulted in huge government indebtedness to our power utilities.
We are turning to Parliament now because we're receiving news that the minority is kicking against a bill introduced by government to allow for the scrapping of import duties on spare parts. According to Minority Leader Haruna Idrisu, the memorandum accompanying the Customs Excise Amendment Bill 2017 is incomplete and is thus unconstitutional. Now, earlier today, Deputy Finance Minister Kweku Kwati moved the motion for the adoption of the bill, but the Minority Leader says the bill breaches the 1992 Constitution and should be withdrawn. He says the move is also a breach of the ECOWAS Treaty. We have on the line Joseph Opoku Gakpo, who has been monitoring the discussion on the floor of Parliament. Joseph, tell us more about the argument being made by the minority.
It's been a long, drawn argument. Eventually, just a while ago, the Speaker, who was in the seat of Bagbin, indicated that approval for this, the final approval for this, should be deferred to tomorrow because there is a final stage of the third reading of the bill that's supposed to come up that has been moved to tomorrow. And the expectation is that the Minority Leader would file an amendment to the original bill tomorrow as well, after which they will debate and approve that, and then a final approval will be given for this particular bill. The Minority Leader's concern has to do with these things are incomplete documentation when it comes to the bill that comes to Parliament, and he thinks that that has to be rectified. And this was a preliminary objection that he raised when the discussions on the bill started initially. At a point in time, the Speaker ruled that it wasn't a very substantive issue, and so the debate itself should be allowed to go ahead. And so they began that, and then the minority raised a number of other concerns. For example, a member of the Finance Committee, Ato Forsen, indicated that when you look at the bill that came before Parliament, it's contrary to the promise that government made when the budget statement was delivered, because during the budget reading, the indication was that government was going to scrap import duty on all spare parts. But he's in a situation where with this particular bill, only some specific ones. He gives a figure to that and says only 60% of spare parts will see the removal of this particular duty. And so he thinks that's not good enough. He indicates again that he foresees a situation where this would be a very negligible thing that would happen, because less than 3% of reduction would be seen on the prices of these spare parts that are being imported into the country. One other major argument that the minority are again raising is that they think that this is a tax which should only be for a very brief period, over the next 4 years, because after 4 years, Ghana would have to harmonize its tax regime with other countries in the ECOWAS sector per the ECOWAS treaty, and so this is also not good enough. The debate has continued. The majority side has been defending it and indicating that even when it comes to the expected returns, they expect price reduction in the region of 15 to 20%, and not the 3% that the minority is indicating. But a final conclusion on this would be seen tomorrow when the third reading of this bill is actually taken, and then probably the motion will be put for its adoption or otherwise.
All right, we'll keep eyes on that and touch base with you tomorrow. That was our parliamentary correspondent, Joseph Opoku-Gakpo, with that update. Moving on, transport operators in Kumasi are making a case for a shared revenue from proposed towing fees with government. It is one of several concerns raised by stakeholders about the implementation of the compulsory fees to be introduced by the DVLA, set to come into force next month. Nana Sensu-Mensah has been exploring the subject and filed this report.
Effective 1st July, motorists and motorcyclists will pay compulsory annual fees tied to acquisition of roadworthy certificates to cater for towing services. The National Road Safety Commission is introducing the service in order to rid the country's roads of abandoned broken down vehicles which cause accidents. The Driver and Vehicle Licensing Authority and the Ghana Police Service are collaborators to ensure such vehicles are cleared off the road. Fees per year for both commercial and non-commercial vehicles, depending on tonnage, range from 20 Ghana cedis to 200 Ghana cedis. Though stakeholders appreciate the initiative would guarantee improved safety on the roads, there are concerns about fee levels and management of proceeds. Kwame Kuma is National Chairman for Ghana Private Road Transport Union. Mr. Kuma also wants to know how such revenues will benefit payers beyond towing of their vehicles if they will break down at all.
Yan GPR and as a draft for Yan stakeholders, your womb, and Bia, your money passing and a womb, and Ochina Bibia, benefit bank, and a yan so a present yan draft for Sabia, Yemenia.
We, the GPRTU, are the major stakeholders in this policy. Though the policy is very laudable, we want authorities to come clear on the modalities and the pricing. We want authorities to set aside a fund from the National Towing Project for the Drivers' Union. These are the inputs we want authorities to consider.
Your buses 49 seater, your buses are 50 seater, and count your sprinter, your Niza oven, and a haze near the head and winner, a friend, a boba. A basana, a friend, enjoy ye. Timmy on bar office, Mitchell, say, police no Maya, and your Maya, your friends, a year, no moon, among court, me and Sacra, and your monka.
Meanwhile, commercial drivers said the implementation of the service fees will affect their finances. Yao Samuel plies the Kumasi Accra route.
Machines no vehicles no dey edos say yes ade emwa den na me say emwa bio your system no this abroad system in the abroad system they are offering bibia ededa no kwan so maybe 30 km and 25 km bia no fire service car a friend say ambulance is your road safety come ho but here kwan so bibi za ne so obefre kra system kra ajam enya adwuma what abroad dey no nyina ye adwuma.
The project is not sustainable. I think our road system is not up to the standard of such an initiative. In terms of logistics, we are under-resourced. Our communication system is very bad. The government must employ several inputs to render the required services.
So, how prepared is the DVLA to collect the fees in less than a month from now? Edmond Cheyo is Ashanti Regional Manager.
For the DVLA, our role principally is to collect the revenue as and when vehicle owners come to do roadworthiness certification or during vehicle registration. And the payment is such that if you are a private vehicle owner, you pay only once, and it will be indicated on your receipt that you have paid. And once you pay, anytime your vehicle breaks down, all you have to do is just to call a toll-free number which will be given by the National Road Safety Commission, and then within some seconds or some minutes, they will dispatch one of the trucks to come and tow the vehicle to a safety or a safe location.
Nana Sensu-Mensah reporting.
We'll stay in Kumasi on a different topic though. Economist and lecturer at Kumasi Technical University has criticized government for its bid to create an import substitution economy. Dr. Thomas Kusum describes the move as a lazy approach. Ghana's import bill for 8 food items saw a significant increase from $1.5 billion in 2013 to $2.1 billion in 2015. Reports say the amount is more than the $2 billion cocoa syndicated loan approved by Parliament for the 2016-2017 cocoa crop season. Dr. Kusum told a breakfast meeting for chief executives in Kumasi this must stop.
We have become scavengers and distributors of products made elsewhere, and we are exporting jobs, but we sit here and cry, making babies. Now, if you look at statistics of import again, in 2015, we imported another 2.1 billion worth. And the most painful aspect of it all is Ghana importing toothpick to the tune of $21 million. Then again, we import animal parts, what you call $18 million from neighboring countries. The only country that eats that offers in this world is Ghana. And so what? We must have the ability to create the import substitution industry. Ghana is the sixth consumer of sugar, and we import $564 million importing sugar to Ghana. 542 million US dollars importing sugar, and we could have avoided sugar. The Galamsey land that is available now can be salvaged for sugarcane plantation. What are we waiting for? Ghana import plantain from Afriyie. Look at the sad thing. Ghana importing plantain from Afriyie. Ghana imports 90, in fact, 90 tons of snail from Afriyie. Something we could have avoided. So we don't even know. And what do? We sit down and we do the importation. In fact, it suits me to say it, we have become lazy distributors, talkatives, and armchair individuals wanted to make profit while sitting down. This cannot be continued if we want to develop our nation.
You're watching Business Live on Joy News. We are taking a short break. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the program. Time to take our interview of the day. An executive director of the Kumasi Institute of Technology and Energy, KITE, Ishmael Ajekumhene, says the few hours of power failure observed in some parts of the country last night cannot be a generational challenge. According to him, such occurrences are bound to happen in the transmission system, even though they can be avoided. In an interview with Joy Business, Mr. Ajekumhene reassured there is enough power to serve the country without any outage.
It wasn't a generation problem, but it was, what GRIDCO does is balancing acts and making sure that we don't have excess generation and we don't have lower than needed supply. If they don't balance that, the system collapses. And the system is such that if for any reason you don't do it yourself, it will shut down to avoid the problem. So I accept what he said because it didn't take us too long to restore the power, because if it's not a generation problem and it's a system problem, I think let's take it. But it is not, let's understand this. It can be avoidable. It can be avoidable so long as you have the system running the way they're supposed to run. I mean, it's not acceptable for you to, in a very, very, very stable power systems, you don't have outages at all. But we are still in a situation where we deliberately will have to, for example, take off some of the loads, and then if you don't do it very well, before you realize the system is collapsing. So if we didn't have to worry about what we are using and dispatching, like, okay, look, we have suddenly we have more thermal, and if that's the case, let's save the water in the lake. So Kusum will gradually turn off one of your systems. So we need to the balancing act had to be gotten right. If we don't get it right, then the system will collapse because, so I think they need to also perfect the act. But there's so much unpredictability in everything that we have now. For example, they will be there and then Atwabo will tell them that the compressor has developed some fault, so gas is not coming to the thing. So they have to immediately probably call VRA to start another generator. In fact, last week, Bui is only supposed to be what we call a picking plant. It's only in the evening that it's supposed to come on. But when we were in Gridco, Bui was actually running one unit because they had lost a unit from the western corridor. So they always have to be watching and making sure very closely that everything that is running perfectly. I will repeat it, I will be the first to bash these guys. If it's a generation problem, we will have to talk about that. But so long as it's not a generation problem, let's make sure that we focus not so much on the generation, but focus on making sure that we are transmitting power and distributing power. Otherwise, we continue to have these problems.
And that's our show tonight. Thanks for watching. Of course, you can keep yourself posted on all the business stories we're covering for you on our website, myjoyonline.com/business. We'll see you tomorrow.